All right, so we're diving deep today into Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. And, specifically these excerpts you gave us all about resistance. That thing, that sneaky force that keeps us from our goals,
Yeah.
whether it's creative stuff or even just, getting in shape.
And it's fascinating how universal that is. Pressfield really argues that point, that this resistance, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're like an artist or in business or just trying to kick a bad habit.
It affects everybody.
Yeah, it affects us all.
And he brings in, to kind of back him up, some heavy hitters, like Robert McKee, the screenwriting guy, and even the Dalai Lama. It's
Yeah.
like they're all teaming up to help us fight this, hidden enemy that's within us.
Yeah, it's a battle. It definitely is a battle. And I mean, he lays out all these different characteristics that define resistance. It's invisible, internal, insidious, it never sleeps. And it plays for keeps. But the thing I find the most fascinating is this idea that it's fueled by fear. Like, it's our own fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the unknown. That really gives it power.
Yeah.
You know?
And he gets so specific, too, talking about, 11 areas of life where this resistance shows up. And it's not just about writing that novel or painting that masterpiece. It's about, sticking to a diet, starting a business, or even just, getting those abs you always want. It's anything that requires us to grow and step outside our comfort zones.
Absolutely, yeah. And it gives this great anecdote about this woman who's diagnosed with cancer, given 6 months to live. And suddenly, all those excuses, all those reasons she hadn't been pursuing her passion to write music vanish. And she quits her job, dives right in, and finds this incredible level of happiness and fulfillment. And then, get this, her cancer goes into remission.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, that's inspiring and terrifying at the same time. It makes you wonder, what are we letting resistance steal from us? Right now.
Yeah.
What dreams are we putting on hold because we're too afraid to take that first step?
And that's the insidious thing about it. You know, it thrives on keeping us stuck in our routines, in our comfort zones. It uses all these sneaky tactics to keep us from doing the work we're meant to do.
What kind of tactics? He has a whole list, right?
He does.
It's procrastination. That's a classic one.
Oh, yeah. Procrastination. That's a classic. That's I'll start tomorrow.
The I'll start tomorrow trap.
Yeah. Oh, it's a favorite. It's a favorite weapon of resistance for sure. But he also points out how we use things like unhealthy habits, distractions, even self-sabotage as ways to avoid the real work.
Right.
We might think we're just having fun or blowing off steam, but, deep down, we're running from something. That scares us.
He even says that seeking external validation is a form of resistance.
It is.
It's like we're constantly looking for permission to live our own lives, waiting for someone else to say, go for it.
It's like we're afraid to trust our own inner compass.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need that approval. We need that pat on the back before we feel worthy of going for it.
And Pressfield's like, nope, that's resistance whispering in your ear.
Exactly.
Stop seeking permission. Start taking ownership. And I think maybe the most cunning tool is rationalization.
It's the master of disguise, isn't it?
Yeah. It whispers seemingly logical reasons why we shouldn't do the work. You're too busy. You're not talented enough. You'll just fail anyway.
Exactly.
And the crazy thing is, a lot of those rationalizations might even be partially true.
Yeah.
We might have legitimate obligations, real limitations.
Yeah.
But Pressfield points out a lot of people throughout history have overcome incredible obstacles
Oh, absolutely.
to achieve greatness.
Yeah. Think about Tolstoy writing War and Peace while raising 13 children.
With 13 kids.
Or Lance Armstrong winning the Tour de France after battling cancer. Resistance wants us to believe that, we're the only ones who can't handle it. But history shows us otherwise.
So how do we fight back against this seemingly unstoppable force?
Right.
And this is where Pressfield introduces this idea of turning pro, which I think is where things get really interesting.
Absolutely. And he's not saying we all need to become professional athletes or artists, but rather that we need to adopt that kind of mindset in our approach
Got it.
to our goals, whatever they may be.
Right.
It's about bringing that same level of commitment and discipline to our creative pursuits, our personal growth, our everyday lives.
So it's about shifting from, I do this for fun, to, I'm serious about this.
Exactly. Think about it this way. Imagine the difference in how you approach a hobby versus a job. Turning pro is about bringing that same level of commitment and discipline to your creative pursuits. It's no longer just like dabbling
Yeah.
or doing it when you feel like it.
Yeah.
It's about showing up consistently, putting in the work, treating your craft with respect.
So it's like shifting from I do this for fun to I'm serious about this.
Exactly. And Pressfield, he lays out this fascinating comparison between the amateur and the professional.
Yeah.
The amateur, he says, plays for fun, while the professional plays for keeps.
Right.
The amateur is a weekend warrior, just dipping their toes in,
Yeah.
while the professional is in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
It's about dedicating yourself to the process, even when it's tough,
Right.
even when you don't feel inspired.
It reminds me of something Pressfield quotes from Somerset Maugham. When asked if he wrote on a schedule or only when inspiration struck, Maugham said, I write only when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, it strikes every morning at 9 o'clock sharp.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really speaks to the power of routine
Yeah.
and discipline in the creative process. By showing up consistently, by creating a structure for ourselves, we actually create the conditions for inspiration to strike.
Yeah.
We're not just waiting around for the muse to magically appear.
Right.
We're actively inviting it in.
And Pressfield doesn't shy away from the tough stuff either. He talks about how the Marine Corps taught him how to be miserable and how that's actually an invaluable skill for an artist.
Yeah. It might sound counterintuitive, but embracing discomfort is crucial for any creative pursuit.
Yeah.
It's about being willing to push through those moments of self-doubt, those times when you want to give up.
Yeah.
The professional understands that the path to mastery is paved with challenges, and they're prepared to face them head on.
He then lays out 10 specific traits of a professional, and he encourages us to think about how we show up in our, professional lives, like how we handle deadlines, how we deal with feedback, and then bring that same level of commitment and resilience to our creative endeavors.
Absolutely. And one of the most important traits he highlights is this ability to not over-identify with our work, It's so easy, especially with creative pursuits, to become so attached to our arc that our self-worth gets tangled up in it. And we become paralyzed by the fear of failure, afraid to put ourselves out there, because what if it's not good enough?
Oh, totally. That's where that don't over-identify really resonates.
Yes.
It's like create the art, pour your heart into it, but then release it into the world without tying your entire sense of self to the outcome.
Right.
Easier said than done, of course.
Oh, absolutely. And he shares this hilarious anecdote about his first professional writing job. On a movie called King Kong Lives, the critics absolutely tore it apart.
Oh, yeah. I vaguely remember that one.
Yeah.
It didn't exactly set the box office on fire.
Not at all. He even quotes this scathing review from Variety. They basically said, "We hope they were using pseudonyms to protect their families from the shame." Ouch.
Talk about a harsh dose of reality.
I know.
So how did he deal with that kind of, public failure?
Well, he was devastated at first, of course. But he came to realize that experience, as painful as it was actually a turning point in his career.
Okay.
It was the moment he truly became a pro. He'd faced real failure head on.
Right.
And instead of giving up, he learned from it. And he kept going.
He has this great line he quotes from a friend who reminds him, "Then be happy. You're where you wanted to be, aren't you? So you're taking a few blows. That's the price for being in the arena and not on the sidelines. Stop complaining and be grateful."
I love that. It's such a powerful reframing of failure.
Yeah.
It's not something to be avoided. It's a sign that we're actually in the game,
Yeah.
that we're taking risks
Yeah.
and putting ourselves out there. It's part of the process of growth and mastery.
Like that saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
You're not going to hit every home run, but you're also not going to strike out if you never step up to the plate.
Exactly. And that leads to this idea that turning pro is just one part of the equation. Pressfield, he takes it a step further by talking about this higher realm and the forces that can support us beyond resistance. And he acknowledges that this might make some people uncomfortable. So he gives permission to think about these forces in a more abstract sense.
Right.
Maybe as talent or inspiration.
Okay.
Whatever works for you.
So this is where it gets a little woo-woo, right? Talking about angels and muses and the universe conspiring to help us achieve our goals.
Yeah. It can definitely sound a little mystical. But I think what he's really getting at is this idea that we're not alone in this struggle. There's a power greater than ourselves that we can tap into, a source of creativity and wisdom that's available to all of us.
And he even compares angels to muses, saying they both know stuff we don't and want to help us, but we're often too distracted to hear them.
Right. And he emphasizes the importance of making a start, taking that first step.
Yeah.
Because that's when these unseen forces can really come into play. He quotes W.H. Murray, who says, "The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too."
Yeah.
It's like the universe is waiting for us to show that we're serious, that we're willing to put in the effort.
Yeah.
And then it meets us halfway.
Oh, I love that quote. It's like, okay, universe, I'm showing up. I'm ready to do the work. Now let's do this thing.
Exactly. And Pressfield talks about how when we start working, power concentrates around us and the muse takes note of our dedication.
Yeah.
We become like a magnet, attracting ideas, insights, and opportunities that we wouldn't have noticed otherwise.
He's describing like that flow state that artists and creatives often talk about, where ideas seem to come effortlessly and everything just clicks into place. It's like you're riding this wave of inspiration.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that this isn't just about the initial spark of inspiration. It's about the ongoing magic of keeping going. It's about showing up day after day, even when we don't feel like it, because that's how we keep that flow of inspiration alive.
So it's not about, waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect idea. It's about just doing the work, even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect.
Yes.
Because that's how we create the conditions for the magic to happen.
He even compares it to like taking a hike where his surface mind empties and another part of him takes over, offering insights and revisions to his work. He calls it a process of self-revision and self-correction that's happening all the time, often without us even realizing it.
I've definitely experienced that before. Like, you're working on a problem and then you step away, do something completely different, and suddenly the solution pops into your head as if by magic.
It's as if there's this part of us, this deeper intelligence that's always working behind the scenes, even when we're not consciously focused on the task.
And Pressfield backs this up with all these, fascinating anecdotes from his own life. He talks about this dream where he's on an aircraft carrier that's stuck on dry land, and everyone's freaking out because they can't figure out how to get it back to the ocean. And the captain turns to him and says, "What the hell are we going to do, Largo?"
And he wakes up realizing he's Largo, the tough, capable leader who's going to figure it all out.
Yeah. It's like his subconscious mind was giving him this pep talk.
Yeah.
Reminding him of his own potential, his own ability to handle whatever challenges life throws at him.
Right.
And then there's the eagle meditation, where this eagle lands on his shoulders and takes him flying. He even asks the eagle, like, what am I supposed to be learning from this?
Oh, yeah.
What did the eagle say?
The eagle tells him, you're supposed to learn that things that you think are nothing, as weightless as air, are actually powerful, substantial forces, as real and as solid as earth.
Wow, that's deep. So it's like this metaphor for, the power of dreams, visions, intuition, those things that we often dismiss as being unreal, but actually can carry like profound meaning and guidance.
Exactly. And this all ties back to this idea of the ego versus the self, which is another key concept in the book.
Okay.
Pressfield explains that resistance arises from the ego's fear of growth. And he says that the most terrifying prospect for many of us isn't failure, but success.
Wait, why would we be afraid of success? Isn't that what we're all striving for?
Because, as Pressfield explains, our egos, they fear the transformation.
Oh.
That comes with embracing our full potential. Like, we get comfortable with who we are, with our limitations. And the idea of stepping into a bigger version of ourselves can be terrifying.
Right.
It's the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing our current identity, even if that identity isn't serving us.
So it's like we're sabotaging ourselves because we're not ready for the level up.
Exactly. And Pressfield outlines 5 key differences in the beliefs of the ego versus the self.
Yeah.
The ego believes in limitations, in separateness, in fear.
Right.
It sees death as the end. Time is linear, and ourselves as fundamentally alone. The self, on the other hand, sees through those illusions. It knows that we are all connected, that love is the ultimate force, and that death is not the end, but a transition.
That's a pretty radical shift in perspective. It's like moving from, a black and white world to a world full of color.
And that leads to this other fascinating concept, the idea approaching the world, with a territorial mindset
Okay.
rather than a hierarchical one. Think of it this way. Imagine you're at a party.
Okay.
Okay. The hierarchical person is focused on who's the most popular, who has the best job, who's getting the most attention. The territorial person is simply enjoying themselves
Right.
in their own space, not worried about what others think.
So the hierarchical person is constantly comparing themselves to others, trying to climb the, social ladder. While the territorial person is focused on their own internal compass.
Exactly. And Pressfield argues that the hierarchical mindset, while natural in many settings, can be incredibly limiting for artists and anyone
Yeah.
seeking self-actualization.
Yeah.
It keeps us trapped in this cycle of seeking external validation,
Right.
always trying to prove our worth to others instead of trusting our own instincts
Well,
and values.
and he uses this vivid example of this three-legged coyote defending his territory.
Oh,
This
yes.
coyote, even with a disability, is a force to be reckoned with on his own turf.
It's such a powerful image. It's a reminder that we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to have everything figured out to be worthy of claiming our space and expressing ourselves authentically.
I love that. It's like saying, this is my space, this is my truth, and I'm not going to let anyone tell me otherwise.
Okay.
So it really is about owning it, like owning your power, your unique gifts, and expressing them, without apology. And that brings us back to, this whole idea of the artist's journey, which Pressfield describes as not just about like personal expression, but about service to something greater.
Yeah. He argues that creative work is a gift to the world. It's a way of contributing to the collective good, even if it's just bringing a little bit of beauty or joy into someone's life.
And he doesn't shy away from like the spiritual aspect of this either. Like he quotes James Joyce, who said, "To forge in the smithy of my soul the uncreated conscience of my race."
Wow.
That's some powerful stuff. It suggests that our creative work can actually help to shape like the consciousness of humanity.
It's a beautiful way of putting it. It's like we're all part of this grand tapestry, and our individual creations add to its richness
Yeah.
and complexity.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored the nature of resistance, the strategies for overcoming it, and this whole idea of like tapping into a higher power to fuel our creative work. But what does it all mean for for the listener? What are some key takeaways that they can apply to their own lives?
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways is that this is universal. Like resistance is a universal experience. No matter what your goals are, no matter what your creative pursuits may be,
Yeah.
you're going to encounter this force. It's not a sign of weakness. It's just part of the human condition.
So don't beat yourself up. If you, find yourself procrastinating, doubting yourself, making excuses, it just means you're alive and you're trying to do something meaningful.
Absolutely. And remember, it can be beaten.
Yeah.
Countless artists, innovators, and changemakers throughout history
All right.
have faced this battle and emerged victorious.
You can too. It's not about waiting for inspiration to strike or for the perfect moment to arrive. It's about like turning pro, showing up consistently, mastering your craft, embracing the challenges that inevitably arise.
It's about shifting from a mindset of fear and scarcity to a mindset of abundance and possibility.
Right.
It's about trusting your intuition, your inner compass, and allowing your unique gifts to shine through.
Pressfield has this great quote where he says, "The most important thing about art is to work. Nothing else matters except sitting down every day and trying." It's like that simple and that hard.
He also reminds us that this isn't a selfish act.
Yeah.
It's a gift to the world. Don't cheat us of your contribution. Give us what you've got. What an inspiring message to end on, right?
Totally. So, to our listener, I hope this deep dive has sparked something within you. Remember, the battle for creative fulfillment is fought within, but you're not alone. Embrace your calling, confront your resistance, and share your unique gifts with the world. Who knows? Your masterpiece might just be waiting to be born.